Hello everyone, Luke here and welcome back to the reviews. Yes, we're back and doing these, ready to rumble. Now before I get into the review, I just want to say a couple of things. If you hear some noise in the background, like that, yeah, that's because we got that little thing with us today, Poppy. As you know, my cat, so she's going to be with us, so I apologise for her purring throughout the video if she keeps doing that. So there's nothing I can do about that, she's just a purraholic. Now, in terms of the regular, just sort out the camera. There we go. There we go. Now, in terms of like, oh, sorry guys. There we go. That's better. That's better. Back to normal. Now, in terms of the what's the difference between the animes and the mangas, that will be coming back, but unfortunately, due to the nature of the Promised Neverland, it won't be coming back in its entirety. I know that might sound a bit of disappointment to people, but let's just say I'm gonna do a full retrospective on the anime season when it ends, because that last episode of it really infuriated me, like to the brink of insanity. Now, the Dr. Stone anime, on the other hand, that will be coming back, although it might be a little bit like uneven because it's just doing such a good job at adapting the series without, and it does add stuff, but it doesn't add it to the point of like, oh, taking away stuff from the manga, which is my major issue with the Promised Neverland anime. But that's besides the point for now. Let's just get into chapter 181. Oh, and another side note, I am going to be using a new editing software from now on. So this video is just like a trial run just to get me used to it. I mean, I have tested with other clips from other reviews before, and it seems to be working all right. So if this seems like a little bit scattershot, I apologise, but it's just me testing the waters with a new editing software, just getting used to it, and hopefully by the end of this year I'll have a new camera as well, because this one is on its last legs as well, in the same way another piece of technology was on its last legs with me. But anyway, this will be chapter 181, titled New World Science. Now, when I first read this time, I was like confused, like, aren't we already in a new world doing science? But when we got to the end of the chapter, that's when it started to make a little bit more sense to me. Alright, so the chapter starts off with quite a nice colour page, although we see here that Kohaku, her outfit has changed again. Like, her outfit keeps changing between the manga and the anime, so maybe it's brown, maybe like she got a new outfit off screen by Yuzuriha at some point, we don't know. But anyway, it starts up with them reiterating that thousands of years ago, that light, it enveloped the earth. It was a malicious force dead set on petrifying all of humanity, and seeing the sheer scale of that malice here is something obviously referring to the giant pyramid of Medusas. Now, a lot of people are like really scared, like, okay, we have to be very careful of what happens with these Medusas. We can't be going around being idiots with it, essentially. Seiku goes on to say that whatever we might try, there was never any escaping from the fate. As we get the title colour page, which is a reference to the fact that Boichi, the artist of Dr. Stone, is doing the Ace light novels from One Piece. So obviously he has drawn Luffy, Akainu, and Ace here with a portal that Seiku opened up, and Suiko's just in the background going, "Yay!" And I just love it there. Like, Akainu looks incredibly confused, like, what is this thing that's in front of me right now? Luffy doesn't care. Ace is shaking hands with Seiku, but Suika being there, I was like, keep her as far away from Akainu as possible. Okay, moving into the chapter proper, Senku, despite the fact I said they have to be extremely careful with these devices, he's going ahead and just being like, oh, 1 meter, 3 seconds just to test out if these devices are working. And of course, they're not at this point, which is, by the look on Senku's face, just like, even though I knew this was probably going to happen, I wish it hadn't have happened. And Taiju's like, all right, pals, it's my turn to do this. If I turn back into Stone Taiju, be sure to put some of that sweet revival fluid on me. I'm like, it's not a drug taiju, so don't get too carried away. But we see Taiju just diving into the Medusas and like literally just bouncing around them, just trying to test the waters, seeing if any of these can actually work at this point. And we see, and even though Kohaku and Suiku were one of the people just freaking out about all of this at the a few moments ago, they're like, "Oh, this is fun. Let me try it as well." It's like, guys, don't be messing around with these things. But it's hilarious all at the same time as well. But anyway, Seika goes on to say, yeah, it's just as I thought. In the Medusa's in this big pile, all out of juice. As Ryusui theorizes that if the device that petrified the whole of Treasure Island, that went out of juice after that, just that one petrification, just that big wave of petrification. He goes to say it's no surprise that a giant pyramid up there that would wipe out the planet, that would go out of juice as well. So it seems to be that one little Medusa itself cannot petrify the entire planet, because if the pyramid of this was capable of that and it went out of juice, then one of those little tiny devices couldn't do that. And that does actually make a lot of sense, because because from what I can tell from years of technology, the smaller the thing the smaller like battery size, and the smaller like computer chip, GPU, and all of that, it can't produce a massive earth engulfing wave in the same way that a pyramid could. That's kind of like what the impression we're getting at here. As Senior goes on to say, what a grand sight it must have been. Such a vast quantity of advanced weaponry, each one shining so brightly. On that day a millennium ago, they gave the Earth a coating. Can you imagine it? As we see scenes from around the world where the Medusas were, when the Medusa light was actually coming in, including the Vatican in Italy. Now, I've actually been to the Vatican. It's a beautiful place to visit. Go and visit if you haven't. Obviously, when we get out of whatever's going on in the world, you know what it is. I just don't want to say the word, but seriously, if you get a chance in your life, go and check out Rome. Go and check out Italy. Go and check out the Vatican. It's a beautiful architecture to actually visit. So continuing on, as Sinu is looking over the site and reminiscing about the petrification beam, again notices that Sinu has actually pocketed one of the Medusas for himself, and he's like, "Oh, that stirring speech was just a mere distraction, but not for me, a mentalist." And as Chrome was trying to get Sinu to actually uncover it, Seiko's like, "Nah, just leave him be. Even if he wanted to use this device, he couldn't anyway." And in fact, the good doctor's interest is quite piqued. We ought to borrow his knowledge for our research, because our interest of winning against Stanley's people involves using Medusa. As we see, kind of a sad face on Sinu's part, and I'm taking this to mean that he's kind of indecisive at this point. I mean, I love the fact that he's completely neutral and mainly on Stanley's side, and he's just going along with them for his own benefit, because because he's quite interested in the petrification wave himself, and find out what the Y-Man actually is. So he's like, okay, I will come along with you and use my science knowledge just because it will benefit me at the same time. But at the same time, I'm not going to help you avoid Stanley. And but this look of confusion on his face kind of makes me think, like, is he going to side with Senku and betray Stanley, his lover? Come on, they're obviously lovers at this point. Or is he just going to go back to Stanley, despite the fact of everything that they've all gone through at this point in time. But anyway, we have Suika going to say, but even with so many of them, if they're useless, then there's no point. But Tsukasa actually overthrows her suggestion here, and it's like, the fast quantity does give them a new option, as we see him pull out brass knuckles. No idea where he got this from, and I didn't notice that when I first read the chapter. So it's interesting to go back and actually, having seen Control Chaos's video, then they brought up brass knuckles. I was like, oh, did he? And I was like, oh shit, he actually did. And he starts, but anyway, he uses the brass knuckles to smash the Medusas, and yeah, I finally got to see Tsukasa wearing rubber boots. That is just okay. Tell me. That is just weird for Tsukasa to actually be doing that. But anyway, continue on. Greaves was like, ha ha ha, of course, we have to leave the we have to leave the autopsy for an expert like Joe. Smashing these apart is a simple matter, and Matsukosi's testimony told us that it is possible, and it is possible because when Stanley actually tried to shoot the Medusa, it did leave a crack, so it is possible to actually break these things. Now, a lot of people actually thought that when Magma went to destroy the Medusa back in Corn City, that it actually bounced off it in the same way that Gimli did in Lord of the Rings. But actually, what actually happened is that Nikki actually got him in her legs and knocked him out. He didn't even touch the Medusa at that point. So a lot of people got a misconception of that on that part. So that's something that needs to be corrected on the wiki as well. Anyway, continuing on, Senku goes, every science-minded kid loves nothing more than taking stuff apart. Time to get to work. Yeah. Unless you're Mayuri from Bleach, because you like taking stuff apart that involves organic organs. God, that would be an interesting conversation. Senku and Mayuri from Bleach. God, what kind of conversation? I can imagine what kind of conversation that would be. Yeah, it won't end well. We cut back to the Perseus where we see Matsukose and Giru discussing where Stanley is actually taking them, but they're like, they can summarise that since Senku's band have already evaded capture, then it must be the fact that they're actually heading that way itself. As we see Maya going, so you think the Junior Science Brigade is kicking back and relaxing? And Science like, yeah, I'm not sure about that because these kids are smart. And we see Mr. Radar going, it's not a problem either way. Their back trails indicate that they escaped down the Amazon rainforest, no mistaking that, and that the youngsters will have to construct a new ship to actually get by. But of course, since they're taking the long way round South America, they're eventually going to catch up to them at any point. Before they go on to say, hang on, they'll have a new boat. How will they even recognise it? And they're like, we will see with our own eyes. Doesn't matter. These radar waves will detect anything out of the ordinary. You can't hide from the radar of science. Yeah, when you get to the end of this chapter, though, that might be something that is actually possible at this point. But anyway, Party Jones brought up the question, and this actually confused me as well because I was like, I was like, wait a second, they're not going to actually build Super Alloy City at this point. But no. And Party Jobs even brought up this as well. But going back and actually reading the earlier chapter, Senku did actually say, no, Ground Zero is just a pit stop for us before we actually go to Super Alloyed City. So they're still gonna make Super Alloyed City. It's probably just gonna be in somewhere along the west coast of South America. Sorry, it took me a while to get my whole noggin in motion. The west coast of South America, so it's probably going to be on somewhere in like Rio or one of those cities that is like on the coast of South America. So I'm still going to go with the fact that they're going to go to Rio, like the capital of Brazil, to make Super Alloyed City. Which I like to see the ruins of like the Jesus statue that's in Rio in this series. That'll probably be a sight to behold. We come back to the guys at Ground Zero where we see Ryusui getting some wood together to build a ship, and he says, I'm sure you guys would tinker for ages if you could, but as soon as this vessel shapeshift were gone, and Senku's like, yeah, we're just taking a boatload of these Medusas back with us whilst we go and sort out Super Alloy City. So my theory is like once Stanley is actually taken care of, they're actually gonna get back the Perseus and gonna go all the way back to Corn City after they've obviously set up Super Alloy City, or maybe Sinu and Stanley will stay in Super Alloyed City. That is possible. Like that actually could happen. Like they'll get Stanley on their side and Sinu, and they'll actually stop them off in Super Alloyed City and ask them to build that up in exchange for valuable information. At that point, that will probably be the exchange that they're actually going for here, which I can actually see being a possibility at this point. But anyway, Gen goes on to say, yeah, of course, given that we're heading off to sea again, a few ragtag rafts will hardly do before he sees like just this bizarre shape of this ship, which looks which looks more like two like long boats, long rowing boats on top of like sort of like oh, can anyone remember the name of that shape? Can anyone just remember the name of that shape? But anyway, my favourite part here in this panel is just Suika going. Suika thinks things are much cute. Things are much cute around, and I love that because it really wants me to get her in a space helmet and get her in space bouncing on the moon at this point. I will pay so much money for that to actually happen. But anyway, they go on to say it's got all these slanting faces with lots of upward facing. As Yukio's like, is this something what I think it is? And Senku's like, yeah, a sonar radar guy would actually recognise this. When Stanley and his people catch up, when Stanley and his people catch up to us to beat the net cast by the radar is with a stealth ship. So yeah, we're getting into stealth territory now. Now, if anyone thinks that is absolutely ridiculous, we have stealth ships in the real world in this day and age, and of course, Karka being Karku is like stealth ship, and Francois is there Francois is there on aid to actually get her up to speed with anything. And Gen's like, are you telling me our science crafting projects are already at that scale? Yes, they are, Gen. You are going to space, for crying out loud. But anyway, that's besides the point. We see Ryusui going on, just being all spaghetti in step, getting the logs together before Chrome brings up. So the geometric design will keep this ship off the radar, and they're like, yeah, that's the gist of it. Like we talked about earlier, radar works by seeing the waves that come bouncing back, and if they have a stealth ship, then the Perseus wouldn't be able to spot them on the radar. But of course, even though they're making this stealth ship, there will be a lot of testing, as we'll get to later in the chapter. Yukio then goes on to say there are various designs that would help hide our craft from detection of radar. Even he doesn't know that some of these military secrets, and it will be from trial and error, as I just mentioned. Before Senku goes on, and we get a very interesting insight into Sinu right here. He goes on to say, I bet the former NASA scientist knows a thing or two about this topic. And he goes on to say, basically what I irritate at the beginning of the chapter, that he's happy to contribute his scientific knowledge if it concerns his own well-being, but you can't expect me to aid your efforts to deceive Stanley, can you? And I just love that about Senior, how he's like, okay, I'm going to be as neutral as possible here, but you're not going to get anything out of me in order to face Stanley. And Chelsea being Chelsea is like, you suck, Senior. Yeah, somebody had to say at this point. We get to see what the stealth ship actually looks like, and it looks very similar to some of the stealth ships that you can actually find on Google if you actually just type in stealth ships. It looks very similar in design to those type of ships. But anyway, Suiki goes on to say maybe those sharp edges are cool after all, and Chrome is like, right, as we see him just getting along now, so he's basically doing the Usopp thing at this point. Excuse me. But anyway, as they start to test the radar, if it will actually, if the radar waves will actually detect the stealth ship at this point, Yukio says it is stealth-ish. I mean, it's kind of hard to detect for its size, but of course, stealth-ish is actually a bad thing. They need it to actually be fully stealthy at this point, and they're like, and Suika's like, this means we won't be hidden from them most of the way. And Senku says, a military grade creation of our first attempt was never going to happen. What comes next is modifying it, it's modifying it to our liking essentially. As Chrome, in his probably one of his shining moments in the series, goes on to say, hard to detect for its size, so being larger in volumes makes it easy to see on the radar. and Ryusui's like exactly same as the naked eye. So like if it's larger, then you will actually be able to fight. But if it's smaller, then it can just get you through the tiny through the small area of your naked eye. But Chrome, in all its brilliance, goes on to say, then when this huge mass of Medusas rained down, why did nobody notice them until it was too late, even with all the 21st century technology? And this actually surprises not just Senku, but Dr. Sino as well, to think like, wow, we never actually considered this question, even though it's so obvious we should have been considering this question. Senior goes on to reiterate, like, it's not as if we were able to monitor every little asteroid that passed by the Earth, but one would imagine with this quantity that NASA and every other observatory would have been able to spy. And yeah, that is a problem that was actually brought up by a lot of people in the last chapter. Like, why didn't anybody spot this thing if it was this massive? Why didn't nobody spot it? And I'm glad that Crow of all people brought it up. Well, I knew Crow was going to bring up. I know Crow is actually smart, but to actually ask a question that even Senku and Sinu weren't actually asking at this point, that is pretty impressive on this part, and it's only just going to get better for Crow at this point, as when they actually do test the Medusa on it, it doesn't show up on the radar. And Kawaku says, so the Wire Man thought of every possibility in every scenario to keep this from being hidden from humanity. And Senior's like, if the devices aren't being detected by radar, Senku agrees with him, and that there must be something mysterious inside the circuitry that must be absorbing the radio waves. So like how radio waves get absorbed into something and then they spurt out, but this is just getting absorbed into them and keeping them inside. So that's what's making it hard to detect. And Chrome as well goes on to say, in this case, why not we just stick a bad amount of these all over the ship? And you see Senku here just like looking so proud of Chrome, like, wow, I never even considered that. So yeah, Chrome, they're just setting it up time and time again to surpass Senku. Chrome is going to surpass Senku. At the end of the series, he's going to become the finished chief of Ishigami village. He's going to marry Ruri, and their kids are just going to be some of the brightest and most intelligent people around. Unless they turn out to be like Magma. So after Chrome makes his suggestion, they coat the stealth ship with all these beautiful Medusas, as we get futuristic stealth ship acquired, and we see Ryusui and Senku going, hey, this is our first new world craft project that will blast past the 21st century. And Ryusui's like, aha, seems to me that going forward we'll be diving into the realms of futuristic science, as we see Dr. Cena just looking over the Medusa and quietly contemplating that science is truly elegant. And that's where the chapter ends, with them saying futuristic stealth ship required. So really good chapter this week. Got a boatload of information about how this Medusa actually works, how this pyramid actually got to Earth. Basically, the radio waves weren't actually being absorbed into them. Now, where do we go from here? Because they're saying futuristic science, so maybe we'll get like some science that could potentially happen in the future, but it hasn't been developed yet. Like they were talking about invisibility cloaks, like from Harry Potter. God, I can't believe I'm bringing up the invisibility cloak. But anyway, I saw reports that scientists were developing like cloaks that could turn you invisible, and also as well, we do have those green screen suits that can turn you invisible. So maybe that will be something else we're getting into the realm of technology in a future chapter, like invisibility. That goes far beyond the realms of what you can do with green screen. But anyway, that's all I've got to say on this chapter. Nothing more, just a really fun chapter, boatload of information. So what did you guys think of it? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lashaluk signing off. Later, guys.